I found the beasts, they're in the case, I win! Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This was not a movie I was planning to talk about. I saw it a while back, end of November, but I didn't do a review on it at the time, and I wasn't planning to, except that when I put out my top 10 movies of 2016, I had a number of people both in the comments and message me directly saying, why wasn't Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them in there? So I am doing a separate video explaining why it's not in there. Now, before I launch into this, please understand, I'm not saying the movie was flat out bad. People have this thing of, if you leave something out of your top 10, they go, why did you hate this? I didn't hate it. However, I do have a lot of issues with it, and I'm gonna kind of get into all of that. But let's start with the positive stuff. And just for a bit of context, I love Harry Potter. I have read all the books, I own all the movies, it's great stuff and I love it, and I was happy to come back to this world. And it's very nice coming back to this world. I'll always be happy to come back to the wizarding world. It's wonderful and it's fun, and there's some really good performances in here. The highlights for me are the characters of Jacob and Queenie, especially together, because their chemistry together is wonderful, but even individually, they're great and they're fun and they're lovable and they make me smile. And for me, they were I wish more of the movie was about them, if I'm being honest. In terms of visual representation, a lot of the creatures are very cool. The little platypus looking guy was adorable. He was terrific. I also, as much as it is kind of derivative of Doctor Who, the whole bigger on the inside thing, I do like the case and the way there's sort of this whole animal preservation all inside there, and the way that was set up and visually it was really cool. I liked that. But yeah, I've got some big problems, and we'll start with Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander. Now, he's not bad in the role. He is fine, but he's not. Eddie Redmayne is a good actor. I don't think he's a good leading man, though. And there is a difference for a leading man in a traditional leading man role. Because obviously Eddie Redmayne has been the lead in some films before, but not as a traditional leading man. I mean, he was the lead, playing Stephen Hawking, in The Danish Girl. Very much not a traditional leading part, but he doesn't work as a traditional leading man, because I really do think there's a certain quality that's really hard to define that I think a leading man in a traditional leading man type of role needs to have, and that is just charisma, watchability, just this sense that you don't want to take your eyes off him, you just want to stay with them. And Eddie Redmayne just doesn't have that. He plays the part fine. There's nothing wrong with the way he portrays it, but I think just lacking that sort of je ne sais quoi kind of hurts it by the fact that he is the lead of the movie. And almost the whole time I was going, can we stick with Jacob and Queenie? We'll get back to Newt. I suppose he's the main guy. And when I examined that feeling, this was what I came up with. The other big thing for me is this, I can really segment this movie pretty cleanly, because the first two acts are one thing, and the third act is something else altogether. Now, the first two acts are basically what the title implies. They're looking for the creatures, they're capturing the creatures, they are putting them back in the case, and it's light, and it's fun, and it's enjoyable, and it's kind of like the closest thing we're gonna have to a live-action Pokemon movie, really. And that was all good, and I enjoyed it. And then it switched gears into a much heavier, action-oriented implications of a dark future third act, and I kind of didn't care. I mean, the first thing is it's jarring. For me, at least, it was a pretty jarring shift, because it's like the first two acts of this movie feel like they would have been right at home with the first two, maybe three Harry Potter movies, with that lighter feel. Oh, we're going to school, and in this case, we're collecting the creatures, and then they get the last creature, and all of a sudden, the third act feels like it's out of one of the last movies in the Harry Potter series, where everything's dark and dour and big, huge stakes. And there's a reason that the Harry Potter films took 8 movies to get from that whimsical starting place to that dark ending place. This tries to do it all in one film, and the transition doesn't work. Now, I will grant that part of the problem may have been just my experience going to watch it. And by that I mean, I had to see it in 3D. It was the time that I was available to see it. It was a 3D showing. And unfortunately, at the time I got there, got stuck in lousy seating, sort of way off to the side, sort of cocked at a weird angle, which is not a good angle to view a movie at all. It's certainly not a good angle to view a 3D movie at. A movie like this you really shouldn't see in 3D because, especially towards the end, it's very dark lighting that never works so well in 3D. So I had kind of a bad visual experience watching this thing. And it is possible that if I'd had better seating for that third act, that it would have worked better. I tend to not think so, though, because my problems are all, structure and tone and story. I had issues with. My problems weren't that I was visually bored. The fact that I couldn't tell what was going on was a problem, but it wasn't the overriding one. I mean, unless the visuals were so spectacular that it just overrode the part of my brain that was picking apart the story, then I probably would still have these same issues. And because that whole ending with the Obscurus, it was sound and noise as far as I was concerned. Now, I need to talk about the Obscurus too, because the movie did something with that twist of who the Obscurus was that I hated. I didn't hate the twist. I didn't hate the reveal of who it was, but I hate the way the movie did it because it's not a real twist. They cheated. And by that I mean we have never seen an Obscurus before in Harry Potter. We've never had reference to it. We don't know what it is. We don't know what the rules are. So this movie is going to tell us the rules, and it lays those out. And it lays out, these children that are Obscuruses or have an Obscurus in them, however it works, they don't live past, it was 10, I saw it weeks ago, let's say 10. They don't live past 10. And then it's like, ooh, but it's not this little girl we were letting you think it was. It was this guy who's like 18 or 19. Oh, big surprise. Like, you didn't surprise me. You lied to me. You cheated with your initial knowledge not being correct. That's not a twist. As a viewer, I'm taking your word at the rules you're giving me. So if you're just lying to me, that's not playing fair. And then there was just the other stuff towards the end, and Colin Farrell turned out to be Johnny Depp, but honestly, going forward, I would have preferred Colin Farrell. And I just wasn't invested in that whole third. You know what I was thinking about that whole third act? Wow, this is a lot of damage. How in the heck are they going to cover all this up and not have the muggles, no mages, find out about all this? And then they really kind of give us a very cheap Deus Ex Machina to get through that, so woo. Look, again, it's not a bad movie, but it for a lot of very fundamental reasons, it didn't quite work for me. And ultimately, I think I kind of land on this one the same way I did on Batman v Superman. Now, to be clear, this is a better movie than Batman v Superman was, but I kind of land in the same place, which is that this film in and of itself, I don't really care for. I'm not really going to want to see again. But I am intrigued enough by what it gives me and even what it sets up for the future that I will come back for future installments and hope that they do it better. So that's sort of where I end up. Now, obviously, lots of people seem to really like this, judging by the people who were surprised it wasn't in my top 10. So if you love this, great, awesome, that's terrific. I didn't. It happens. So, did you see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? What were your thoughts on it? Whatever they were, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to hit that little bell down there so you get notifications when I put up new videos. Check out the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. Follow me on Twitter at Council of Geeks. I'm doing all of these out of order now for some reason. Until next time, this council is adjourned.